Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Kayla. Today's video, we are gonna do a recap of my nonfiction November. So nonfiction November is where in the month of November, I don't know if you are supposed to only read nonfiction or read a lot of nonfiction, read some nonfiction, I don't know. But for me, I can't just read nonfiction. That's not kind of how my book taste goes. In the month of November, I just read as many nonfiction books that I wanted to, that I could in between all the other things that I was reading. It was a moment. It was a moment. So usually if I am reading a nonfiction book in a month, I'm usually just reading one. So if I read more than one, I counted nonfiction November as a success. And I read six nonfiction books in the month of November. I'm here to tell you what six that I read, kind of chat with you about what they're about, and then chat with you about what I rated them and what I thought. So let's get going. Okay, so the first nonfiction book that I read in the month of November was Hidden Figures by Margot Lee Shetterly. This is a book that I read because of the Magic Treehouse read-along that I'm in. And this is about the female African-American mathematicians that worked for NASA pre Neil Armstrong being on the moon. So kind of the women that helped get a man on the moon, helped get people in space, the never before told story of the women who actually helped the space race. And it was very interesting because a lot of this was about them working at Langley and NASA and stuff and being segregated from all their other colleagues because they were African American. So I generally enjoyed this book. I ended up giving it 3 stars, and my Goodreads review says, "Hear me out. The info in general, really interesting. I want to know more. The way the info was presented, can't pay attention." So I felt that this book was very dry, and like I said in this very short review, I enjoyed the information, just the way in which it was presented to me. I couldn't wrap my head kind of around it. And this is definitely something that I want to look more into and kind of figure more out about this. We did as a group end up watching the movie, and the movie is really good. I'd never seen it before, and I had a great time watching the movie. And I feel like while things were missing from the movie versus the book, the way in which the information was presented in the movie, I really enjoyed. So yeah. And then the next nonfiction book that I read was I'm Glad My Mom Died by Jeanette McCurdy. This is about Jeanette McCurdy. She's from iCarly, and she was a childhood actress, and she kind of stopped acting when she got kind of into adulthood. And this is just her story about everything that kind of happened in her life and the abuse that her mother put her through, both mentally and emotionally, and I guess physically if you count the eating disorders and stuff, but it was a lot. I read this in a vlog. I talked about it a little bit more in the vlog, so if you want to go see me talk about it in the vlog, I'll leave it linked somewhere. But I really enjoyed this. I gave it 5 stars because I listened to the audiobook, and I listened to it basically in one sitting, and there were just parts that were very emotional for me. So I recommend this one. Trigger warnings really though for a lot of things, eating disorders, abusive parents, things like that. So it is a very hard read emotionally, but I really enjoyed it. Okay, and then next I have Madly Deeply, The Diaries of Alan Rickman. These are Alan Rickman's diaries from 1993 to 2015, and Alan Rickman died in 2016, so these are posthumously published. And so we basically follow Alan Rickman's personal life and which roles he took and which he didn't want to take, which people he met with for lunch on any given day. There were millions and millions of name drops, so he was seeing, he knew some people. There were sections about his mom, the travels he went on. Really, literally, it's his life. So I found this very interesting. I enjoyed my time with it. At this point in the month, I decided to not rate any more nonfiction because I felt kind of uncomfortable rating because a lot of the nonfiction that I read are like memoir type books, and I felt very uncomfortable reading a book that was someone's life. But if I did rate it, or I do rate things, it's more based on the way the information is presented to me, not necessarily what the information is, right? So I really enjoyed this. It was very dry, and it was dry because I'm literally reading his diary, and he's talking about people that I don't know, and there's no like drama. I really thought I was gonna read this and Alan Rickman was gonna give me the drama. Like someone was gonna get called out. And maybe he did call people out and then they just edited it out. I don't know. But I was really expecting the drama, and I did not get any drama. I was fairly bored while reading this, and if you are a big fan of Alan Rickman, I highly recommend reading this, but if you're not, then I don't necessarily think this is the book that you would enjoy at all. So there's that one. And then the next book that I read is We've Always Been Here, a queer Muslim memoir by Samra Habib. I listened to this and I really enjoyed this. This is about the author, and she grew up in Pakistan and her family moved to Canada as refugees. And it's kind of her life. It talks about like bullying, racism, poverty, an arranged marriage, and she felt very backed into a corner and not being able to have like a creative space, a safe space to kind of grow. Really, it was about men wanting to police her and her not wanting that anymore. Kind of explores her faith, her art, her love, her sexuality. It was very interesting. I actually really recommend this book if you want to know more about maybe the Muslim experience being queer, or just the Muslim experience in general. I definitely would like to find other books in a similar atmosphere. I think that's something that I really would enjoy learning about. But to start with this one, I am very glad that I started with this one in that atmosphere, and I really recommend this a lot. The audiobook is very, very good. So far, as you can tell, I am a memoir queen, and a memoir queen who likes to listen to the audiobooks. I didn't listen to Alan Rickman one, but I usually prefer my memoirs in audiobook form. Okay, so the next one I read was Fleabag, the original play. This was only like 45 pages. I did rate this. I gave it 5 stars. I'm gonna tell you that because y'all know that I love Fleabag. So the beginning was a little bit about Phoebe Waller-Bridge kind of getting the play to Edinburgh in 2013, I believe, and that's where it debuted, and kind of how she thought of Fleabag and what she wanted to do with the character of Fleabag, and then I'm not totally sure if this was the full play. And maybe because it was probably like a 1-act type thing where it was very short. The play might have been this short and everything else from the show was created after. But the play is just basically the first episode, if I remember correctly, of Fleabag. The first episode and a half. And so after I read the introduction that Phoebe Waller-Bridge said, it was really just the script of the play. And it was very interesting seeing the script and then seeing how different it translated from probably what it looked like on the stage to what it looks like on Amazon Prime and BBC, you know? So I really enjoyed this. I am a huge fan of Fleabag. I'm a huge fan of Phoebe Waller-Bridge. Though when I saw this on Libby, I got it immediately and I had to read it. So I highly recommend that if you're a Fleabag fan. If you're not a Fleabag fan, maybe read it and become a Fleabag fan. I don't know. Okay, and then the last nonfiction book that I read in the month of November is The Sound of Gravel by Ruth Werner. And this is about Ruth and her family. And Ruth is the 39th child to her father's 42 children. So her father had 42 children and she is number 39. So Ruth and her family live on a farm in rural Mexico, and their house is not very well kept. There's no like running water or electricity in the house. And at church, they preach that women can only ascend to heaven if they are in a polygamous marriage. It kind of talks about that, and Ruth's father is not around because he was actually murdered by her uncle. So Ruth and her siblings are actually carted back and forth from Mexico to El Paso because they are getting assistance from the government, like food stamps and things like that. So they go probably once a month to El Paso, get their food stamps, get the food, and then they go back to Mexico. And then Ruth ends up getting a stepfather, and her stepfather is not a good guy, but the mom is very like, that's my husband, these are my kids need a father, my kids need to be around polygamous marriage. And as Ruth gets older, she starts to doubt her family beliefs and her mother's choices and struggles that she has gone through. And this was so good. It was so good. I was very interested in this story. This is something that I really recommend to a lot of people. There are some things in here that I think are hard subjects for a good amount of people, but overall, it was very good. I do recommend this book a lot. It really showed you like the resilience of young children when put in circumstances like your parents not being able to provide. And yeah, so there's that. So that is all 6 of the nonfiction books that I read in the month of November. I hope that you enjoyed me talking about these. Let me know down in the comments what you read for nonfiction November. Let me know in the comments if you've read any of these, if you want to read any of these, what do you think? And that's it. That's all I got. So don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, do whatever you need to do to help out my channel. And I will check you guys in my next video. Bye.